Good afternoon. This is Media Center Ukraine Odessa. We're starting for today. Our first briefing today is dedicated to compensation for damage to the environment of Odessa region as a result of Russian aggression, restoration of the Danube water reservoirs, and ecological situation of the Black Sea. We are now having representatives of the relevant department of the Odessa Regional Administration. The first speaker is Pavlo Bulanovych, Director of the Department of Ecology and Natural Resources of Odessa Regional State Administration. Thank you very much. Thank you very much for having this opportunity to share the information, which we believe is very important for Odessa region, and in the conditions of war, the armed aggression against our independent state. The topical issues are restoration. Danube rivers have direct impact on such areas as Bessarabia and the south of the Odessa region in the general. The system of Danube lakes was created in the 60s, 80s of the previous century, in line with the natural conditions. In spring, they get flooded to the established level, and in summer, these waters are used for melioration and for watering, and there is some amount which is evaporated. In recent years, we have been facing climate conditions, namely high air temperatures and the drought in Izmail rayon of Odessa Oblast. These lakes are almost dry. There is a desert now there. But the situation became even more deteriorated in 2022. Lakes Katlabucha and Kitai are the main rivers that are the sources for melioration systems and to preserve resource and biodiversity on those territories. The Odessa Military Regional Administration adopted the Regional Environmental Program, and to support those lakes, 20 million hryvnias were allocated as the subvention to the state budget. Work was done last year. Almost 66 million of cubic meters were pumped into lake, and around 10 million cubic meters of water were pumped into Lake China, decreasing the risks there. That's why the water can be now used for watering by farmers. We had to do that to restore those lakes. The water exchange system in that region includes not only Katlabuk River, but also Lung, Safyane, and Stare Nekrasovsky Plavny. So this is the river's water turnover in those areas. Water from the river, from the Danube River, is pumped through Hromadsky and Zhelявsky canals. Hydrotechnical facilities are like floating, and everything depends on the difference in the level of the Danube rivers and reservoirs. There are special protective structures along the Danube River. Hromadsky Canal was built in the 60th year of the 20th century, and it was cleared almost 30 years ago. At the beginning of works, the canal was by 100%, and that made it impossible to flood properly Staronekrasovsky Plavny, Safyany, Lung, and Kantlabuk lakes. In September 2022, with the involvement of the head of the Odessa Regional Military Administration, the Ismail Regional Administration was tasked to clear the canal through agricultural means. From October 2022 to May 2023, the work has been done. They used their own mechanisms to clear the canal, 3.5 kilometers. 85,000 cubic meters of soil were extracted from that canal. In parallel, there was the project to reconstruct the water supply system for Lung, Safyany, Staronekrasovsky Plavny lakes. That allowed to increase the level of water in spring 2023. So the work was ongoing, but we had already achieved the planned result. It is very important from agricultural point of view to ensure fresh water supply and irrigation, and it also allows to preserve environment and biodiversity in those areas. You can now see those lakes. Kantlabuk, Lung, Safyany, Staronekrasovsky Plavny are filled with water, and this is due to the cooperation of the local authorities and economic operators to achieve the common goal. So this is a PPP. The whole amount of work was done under conditions of the war, armed aggression, and this is an example how the region can be restored as the part of the agricultural system of the state for environmental and agricultural safety. Hromadsky Canal is operative. The water is supplied to Lung, Safyany, Staronekrasovsky Plavny, Kantlabuk lakes. The lakes are full with water, and you can see this now on the video. This is as for the water challenges. There is one more issue to be solved, the condition of the Kyslitsky Arm. A Romanian party at the beginning of the 21st century constructed the stone dam of 3 meters wide dump that redirect the water to Tulchinsky estuary. That's narrowing by 50% from 300 to 300 meters, decreasing the water supply by 45% from 75% of the water volumes in the Danube river. And this deteriorates the situation with the lake. Kantlabuk Lake is nourished by that arm, thus affecting melioration and fishery in the Ismail rayon. To solve the issue, we need to widen the Kyslitsky Arm and to clear the area there. The Secretariat of the Cabinet of Ministers of Ukraine ordered to fulfill the work with the involvement and water management of the local area and the state institution of the Market Institute and the economy of the challenges in Ukraine. In April 2022, the project was offered to improve water management for the lower part of the Danube. The materials were submitted for the competition of the program Interreg Romania 28-27, and it is planned to clear the Kyslitsky Arm and to modernize water structures. To nourish water for Kotalop, Lung, Safyani, Starensinsky, Plavny Lake. The Ministry of Environment supported the project in December 2022, and the latest news is that on the 3rd of May, the management bodies of the Interact program informed us about selecting our application. It will be submitted to the European Commission for further approval. They offer us to elaborate details of our application, and the final decision will be made in autumn. And the work is ongoing. We are waiting for the approval of our application in September 2023, and we will be able to start work the next year, subject to proper weather conditions. Thank you very much. That's all on my side, and now I'm ready to answer your questions. And I think that we can give floor to other speakers, and we already have some questions. So I would like to give floor to all the speakers, and then we'll have Q&A session. Dmytro Savaliuk, Deputy Director of the Department, Head of the Department of Environmental Programs, Accounting, Financial Reporting, and Organizational Support of Odesa Regional State Administration. Good afternoon. With the start of unjustified aggression of the Russian Federation against Ukraine, Odesa region has been suffering drone and missile attacks. To create the common register of losses, the Ecological Inspection of Ukraine established the operative headquarters to record all the losses basing on the information provided by local authorities, including the executive local bodies. The mentioned headquarters includes the representatives of ecological community of Odesa region. The Environmental and Natural Resources Department, together with the State Ecological Inspection, with the beginning of the martial law, visits the emergency sites to record the situation there, and the environmental inspection calculates the losses by the environment. To organize cooperation with all branches of authorities. In February this year, the tasks were defined for the Rayon Regional Administration to organize work of the representatives of the Environmental Department and the Ecological Inspection at the emergency sites to conduct work to record losses. Moreover, there is the decision of the Parliamentary Committee of the Verkhovna Rada of Ukraine dealing with environmental issues to organize parliamentary hearing that took place in 2022. To discuss the consequences of the war for Ukraine. And the same decision appoints and orders the regional administration to continue work for recording losses caused by the Russian aggression. The representatives of the department visited a lot of emergency sites. And I would like to name some of them. They include enterprise Tofexim, Naftoprodukt, Desnaftoprodukt. We have also visited the emergency sites in this Zrhivka village, the 9-story house that was destroyed, killing the residents there, and the Gorge restoration camp. The Mirny village of Odesa Rayon, Odesa Aviation Factory, the military academy, and warehouses in the village of Norebeska of Odesa Rayon. We have established cooperation with the main cadastre department, the Local Land Resources Directorate, to receive documents for land plots. including to assess financial losses which is needed by the environmental or ecological inspection. We calculate losses using the methodology that were developed in 2022 to face the war. Some of them have been developed in 2023. These are new methods that allow us to calculate damage to the environment in different areas, including the forest fund, the territorial sea, forests, atmosphere, air, etc. The department has been preparing the draft order by the regional military administration to create special committees under the umbrella of the Odessa military regional administration to calculate damage to the forest resources and reserves. The committees will include representatives of the local regional administration, the representatives of the Natural Resources Fund, the Forestry Directorate, and also the self-government bodies. The department will continue its work in this area, and we hope that the work done by the department and by the inspection will be taken into consideration by the international environmental organizations like the International Criminal Court that has already started criminal proceedings with regard to the Russia's armed aggression against Ukraine, basing on the applications on 48 countries. Or as an alternative, this can be a compensation committee under the UN, which played a major role in '99 in the war between Iraq and Kuwait. The general amount of losses calculated by the inspection in Odessa region is 12 billion hryvnias. That's all from my side. Thank you for your attention. 12 billion hryvnias since the 24th of February till the present moment, the amount of ecological damage. I think that this amount is not that big because there were 5 oil facilities that have been damaged. What methods did you use for a calculation? This is the question of the ecological inspection. Vladyslav Khrushch, the acting head of the State Ecological Inspectorate of the Southwestern region, Mykolaiv and Odesa regions. Good afternoon. I would like to start saying that the armed aggression of Russia damages not only health and lives of people, but the environment of our state. That's why, under the initiative of the State Ecological Inspectorate, Zbovich, with the deputy, with the MP Alena Krivaluchka and the Ministry of Environment in March, we started the operative headquarters to record the information and to create the single register of damages caused as the result of the full-scale invasion of Russia. The operative headquarters cooperates with the emergency service, the state security service, the prosecutor's office, the forestry agency, and of course the ecological inspectorate. The aim of the headquarters is to make the list of all environmental offenses and violations and to bring the aggressor to liability. That's why, with the beginning of the martial law, starting from the 24th of February, we have developed 7 new methodologies allowing to calculate, allowing to make tests at labs as a result of the military aggression. This includes such areas as the damage to air, ground, soils, the bottoms, and this is the new methodology that will come into force from the 1st of June. The State Ecological Inspectorate of the Southwestern region fruitfully cooperates with the Odessa and Mykolaiv military regional administration, the Ministry of Defense, and the regional units of the State Emergency Service, records the damages to environment in Odessa and Mykolaiv regions. The representatives of inspectorate make visits, site visits, as a result of every attack to record the damage, to take probes for further laboratory tests. The information received is sent to the operative headquarters for further management of the information to create the unified register of losses for the whole of Ukraine. In Odessa and Mykolaiv regions, we calculated losses $93 billion, $25 billion for soils, 27 billions for area, and water resources, 39 billions hryvnias. As for Odessa region, thanks to our defense forces, the damage is only at the level of 12 billions hryvnias. The main damage was caused to soils. So the whole amount is for the soils. Atmospheric air and other resources is significantly less. It is calculated in millions of hryvnias. That's why I'm not going to focus on these issues right now. It has already been mentioned what areas have been damaged. The most, Sergeyevka village, 90-story house, and there was one more case to 11 billions. That was the damage to the recreation base. So this is all these damages are mainly caused by the damage of the house in Sergeyevka and the recreation camp in Khrushch. You asked about oil bases, oil factories. At the moment of attacks there, the methodology was only developed. That's why the calculations were made there using the methods before the martial law. And those methods envisage the possibility of being present at the sites during missions. But our staff is allowed to be at the site after the State Emergency Service finalizes its works. And at that period, it is quite problematic to calculate emissions. But if you've used the modern methodology, then those amounts will be billions. So now it's 1 billion. That will be several billions. Now we're talking about millions, but I would like to develop on the reason of the small amounts because the methodology that was developed before the war, our inspectors should be directly at the site of atmospheric emissions. I would like to add that I can make the following example. This is Sergeyevka settlement. If you calculate there using the methodology before the war, the losses there around 350 millions. If you calculate using methods that were adopted during the martial law, the losses amount to 11 billion. So you can understand the difference between those methods. Please do not turn off your mics. Do we have any questions from the floor? Because I have some online questions. So just don't forget to introduce yourself before asking your question. One of the topics of our today's briefing is the environmental state of the Black Sea. Please introduce yourself. Ukrainian Radio Odessa, Gennady Stepanenko. I have not heard any information about the ecological state of the Black Sea, and I would like to ask if you have been examining the fauna of the Black Sea. The issue with dolphins, and are there any limitations to such examinations? And do you cooperate with the countries neighboring with Ukraine, Romania, and Bulgaria that also have access to the Black Sea and have the same problems caused by the war in Ukraine? There is really a significant issue with the dying dolphins. The first challenge we face is that it is difficult to calculate the amount of dead dolphins. We have been able to identify that the dead bodies of those mammals are carried by waters to Bulgaria. So we cannot calculate them. We can calculate only those animals that are carried to the Ukrainian coastline. But the preliminary calculation of the dead animals is more than 50,000 dolphins. We have been developing the separate methods for mammals and the sea bioresources. We have been recording the situation not only by the Ecological Inspectorate, but also by the eco-activists, the civil society, and the nearby reserves. And we hope that we'll be able to calculate the damage and include this to the general amount of the damage caused to Ukraine by the war. Are there any other damages to the water resources apart from fauna? Of course, there are damages caused by oil leaks to the Black Sea. Because it has changed the structure of water. And the birds are caught there, and we cannot save them. Because first, we need to find them. The biggest damage was 39 million hryvnias to the water resources as the result of the attack of drones on the 16th of October in Mykolaiv. There was the damage of the vegetable oil facilities of the enterprise Yamari that's contaminating the Black Sea. There was the contamination of the Bursky limen, and there was the square of the damaged water was 350 square meters, but there is also the oil found lower, and the square is 300 square meters. So we have calculated that the amount of oils there is in 5.5, and in some places in 50 times more than allowed. And of course, this affects the waters there. Could the State Ecological Inspectorate get to all damaged sites, or how many sites have not been examined yet, including the Zmyny Island? Thank you for your question. We have not reached the Zmyny Island, the Snake Island, so far. And I think we will be able to do this closer to our victory or even after the victory, because it is not safe for our inspectors to get to the island. When our inspectors visit the damaged sites, they are endangered, but we're sure that we will be able to get to island. Coming back to the example of Every enterprise, the strike was there on the 16th of October. And after that case, we developed the methodology to ensure a mechanism of the presence of our inspectors at the site struck by the Russian Federation to take probes, to test them, and to calculate damages. And I have a question to Mr. Bulanovych. You've told us about the state of the lake resources. I would like to ask you about the flood this year. Was it enough to affect the balance of water resources? Thank you very much for your question. This is a very important question. Thanks God, this year we have at least the flood. This is not the maximum, but by 60–70% compared to the previous years, 2012, 2014. And if we compare the situation with last year or the year before the last, we at least have some flood. Last year, there was the drought, the total drought. There was no water there. If you can remember, last year in Serbia, they found the drowned vessels of Byzantia of the 12th–13th year due to the bad condition of the Danube, so they were able to see the bottom of the river. That was for the first time in history. The level of the water in the Danube river was 55 centimeters, so our reservoirs cannot be fed by the water there. This year, since February, we have had flood. We still have water. The maximum level was in March. The flood is there. The cleared canals are now full with the self-floating water. And the water reached lakes and limans. And there we use hydrotechnical facilities to ensure circulation of the water through Safyane, Lunga, and Starany Krasivsky Plavny. Last year, Safyane, Lunga were just rock. There was the desert there, and now they are flooded with water. The flood will be over in a week or three. And the water will be evaporated because of high temperature. The needed volume of water in Kaplagbach is 1.83 now centimeters. Now it is more than 2. So we still have some pool of water for the evaporation. I believe that we have succeeded in our work, and we have done a lot. We just excavated the barriers in those reservoirs. The flood is there, and we were able to have water at least, contrary to the last years. We have several questions. The representative of Zeleny list could not be here. That's why they have sent several questions. We have several questions to you. Recently, they have been presenting the expansion of the Tuzlitsky Liman National Park using the water areas of the Black Sea according to the European requirements. At the meeting, the representative of the ministry was present, and you ignored the meeting according to the Zeleny list. What have you done as the director of the department to expand those reserves and national parks? And the second question, when the head of the Kuyalnitsky National Park will be appointed? As for the first question, I can tell you the following. All authorities act according to the 19th article of the Constitution, in the framework defined by the Constitution and the laws of Ukraine. The question of expanding the national park here using the territory of the Black Sea is not the mandate of our department. We have the Land and Water Code that clearly says that the Black Sea and limits are water objects of the state importance. The Cabinet of Ministers shall be responsible for agreeing these issues. This is not the responsibility of our department. As for lands, the agreement on allocation of lands can be provided if the users of lands consent. We have the Kielsk Water Directorate, which is the owner of those lands, and has the state act that entitles that entity to use lands on the permanent basis. And there is the pump station of that directorate, which is in the list of potentially dangerous facilities. The Kilia directorate did not give its consent for the allocation of those lands. This information has been submitted to the Ministry of Environment and to other stakeholders. So, as for the allocation of water area, I believe that the central body, as the Ministry of Ecology, should address the Cabinet of Ministers to get the permissions. As for the mentioned event or presentation and our presence there, there was a representative of the ministry and a representative of department. So we cannot say that the department was not presented at the meeting. As for me personally, why I was not present there, if I had been informed 2-3 days before the event, I could have planned my visit there. But I have some other tasks that I can not change at last minute. That's why we sent there the head of the department responsible for natural resources, and she discussed all the issues with the people present at the meeting. So we cannot say that the department was not present there. You can just refer to the protocol to check the information. As for the head of the Kuyalnitsky National Park, all measures according to the law of Ukraine on natural funds have been fulfilled. There is the legal address of the national park, and there are the provisions about the National Natural Park. And the issue of appointment of the head of the park is the responsibility of the ministry. They should make a decision basing on their competition, but during the martial law, they can make the decision without any competition. There is a candidate from the Odesa region. The ministry knows about it. The person was offered, and this is the deputy director of the Ecological University, Oleg Mykolaiv Grib. But the issues of different nature. This is the issue of funds. No budget funds are envisaged for the park during 2023. We cannot take any measures without proper financing. We cannot even register the organization because we cannot pay the fee. So the work has been done, the candidate has been submitted, and this is the responsibility of the Ministry of Environment to appoint the person. And as for the body which is responsible for the national park. It is also the Ministry of Ecology. And we have one more online question. According to the Lenny list, you have an apartment in Greenwood house that was built on the territory of the Botanical Garden of the National University, named after Mechnikov. No, I don't have a flat in those house. I have a flat in an old house in the historical center of Odessa, so this is not true. And no, because I would have been declared that flat if I've had it. And I have one more question to you. This is the question about your position as for the conflict in Tuzlivsky Liman, which was reported by Ivan Rusin the day before yesterday. The staff of the national park are not allowed to access some of these sites. Are you aware of the situation? I've learned about the situation from the Facebook, and there is also the letter from Tuzlivsky Liman to the state regional administration, for the state regional administration to give permission for activities in the national park. But this is beyond the liabilities of the regional administration. Regional administration cannot issue permission to conduct some activities in the national parks, because this is the area of responsibility of the Ministry of Environment. This is the park of the ministry. This is the territory of the ministry. And we should also remember that the war is ongoing, then there is the martial law, and we have the military, we have the armed forces that also issue their permissions and order. I don't know what they used to have there. I don't know why there is such a dramatical change of the position of our military. And I understand that the national park has the decision of the scientific and technical council to conduct such activities to ensure water circulation of reservoirs back there. Of course, this is related to environmental protection. There is the decree of the Cabinet of Ministry 5557, but the facilities of the natural resource, in our case the natural park, are not the part of Decree 557, because there is the decision of the Scientific and Technical Council, and basing on the technical condition of the water circulation. So their actions are legal. I don't know what is the problem with the military there. I do not have access to that information. But the issuing of the permission is beyond the competence and the area of responsibility of regional administration. We cannot issue such permissions. Thank you. Thank you for your time. Thank you for being with us today. We will happily invite you here today. And I would like to ask those journalists who are interested in the ecological issues and compensation for damage to the environment of Odessa region to refer to us, and we will gladly share the contacts of the relevant persons with you. The next briefing will take place in 15 minutes. It will be dedicated to the transportation sector of Odessa region. Stay tuned.